Slam. This is an all-star panel for this one. We've got Kevin J. Anderson, best-selling novelist and return guest. We also have Michael Sadler, founding member of iconic prog band Saga, and Bob Madsen of the Highlander Company Records. Quote from this episode: "The record business is broken. We don't know what we're doing." Keep listening. Find out what it's all about. All right, there's the robot voice. All right. Can't we find the minds that lead us a little closer to the heart? What's up, everyone? Jack Mangan here. Support life and music. This is a really special one today. We've got an incredible musician with a wonderful legacy, and talk to many people across Canada. They'll tell you this is their favorite band and their favorite singer. And an incredible author. Again, you'll talk to many people say, "Oh my gosh, that's my favorite science fiction author. He's the best." So the two of them have worked together on this project. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, but we're definitely going to talk about it's not a new project, but there's a new aspect of it for 2025. All right, I'm going to stop being coy. Michael Sadler of famously of Saga, Kevin J. Anderson of Too Many Books to Mention. It'll take me 2 hours to say them all. Thank you both for coming on today. Wow, what an honor to talk to both of you guys. And Kevin, again, thanks for coming back.
Well, I loved it last time, so let's do it again. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. When we're comparing beards, so if we had last time Kevin and I were at Kathy Rankin, Kevin and I did win in that competition. Kathy Rankin does not have a beard at all, but today I think Michael gets the honors.
Hands down, he's got a bit of a head start on you guys.
So we get into the deep conversations here. We talk about beards and hair, but no, I mean, enough silliness. So Kevin, I'm going to start with you. Please, I know it's a huge story. So tell us about the release that is the newest release in the Terra Incognita saga for you. Tell us about the latest release that for 2025.
So I like writing big things. I don't think, but I mean I do write short stories, but I like writing big epic stories that have dozens of characters and span either the whole continent or bunches of planets or whatever. And this is a story that I had in my head for probably 15, 20 years before I finally got around to writing it. It's a giant epic fantasy story of like sailing ships and sea monsters and the Crusades. And I mean, I always loved nautical sea monster legends and the edge of the world where the ships might sail off the edge of it. And one of my bugaboos is kind of like the clashes of religions about how can you have a religion that talks about how much God loves you and then you hate and kill everybody else that doesn't believe the same thing? And I just the clash of the Crusades. So I wrote this giant story called Terra Incognita. It's kind of, I like to say, like Game of Thrones only finished, but it's this gigantic story, and it's really heartbreaking. There's characters and it's the one of the key lines in it. Ages ago, I was really we're recording this on October 7th, so it's the anniversary of the horrific attack on Israel, and the whole Israel-Palestinian clash. A line that we put into one of the songs, which I'll talk about, is "You killed our fathers, so we kill your sons. How can you say you're the innocent ones?" And it's just like the hatred never goes away if you just keep. I'm going to get back at you for what you did to me, and you got back at me for what I did to you, and it just goes on. But this is a story that was inspired mostly about like sailing ships in the age of discovery and sea monsters. And because this is about music, I will tell something that everybody will recognize. This was inspired by the cover art on the Kansas Point of No Return album. Everybody knows what that looks like. The ship sailing off the edge of the world. And then on the other side of the album, it was the sea monsters coming up and the ship coming. So I just love sea monsters. And I wrote this big story. It was published about 15 years ago, and because I'm always inspired by music in my writing, and we talked about this in my last appearance here, that I worked with Rush and Neil Peart on so many things, and just was inspired by that album, Kansas album, The Point of No Return, which is about sailing ships and sea monsters. And I wrote this whole story. It was like, I think, the best, most gripping thing I ever did. But I always wanted to have a companion album to it. Like I listened to all this music. So what if we do music that comes out with the novel? And at the time, a good friend of mine was Sean Gordon. He owned a record label called Prog Rock Records, and they did prog rock. And we got to talking about how cool it would be to do a record that tied right with the publication of the book. And so I'll kind of show up here. This is the first book, The Edge of the World. See our nice little sea monster in the ship there. So we produced an album, and the music was by Eric Norlander. And the great Michael Sadler from Saga is one of our vocalists on it. James Labrie from Dream Theater is another vocalist. Lana Lane, female vocalist, who's Eric Norlander's wife, and John Payne from Asia. We had David Ragsdale, the violinist from Kansas. So how cool is that? It's inspired by a Kansas album way long ago, and I've got violinist from Kansas on the record. So we released the first album with the first book, and then a year later, we released the second album with the second book, which is the Map of All Things. And the second album has actually Steve Walsh from Kansas, the guy who sang Dust in the Wind and Point of No Return, Carry On Wayward Son. So he's on there. Michael Sadler came back, and Sass Jordan, a Canadian vocalist, came back. And I came in and sang. And so that album came out, and these books came out, but we just had, let's just say that there were challenges because the publisher didn't understand why anybody who listened to music would read books. And they just didn't work to connect the albums and the books, and they thought that I should be writing science fiction instead of fantasy, so they only published them in paperback instead of in hardcover. And let's just say it didn't turn out as well as I had wanted it to turn out. And Prog Rock Records, the label, went out of business, so we never did the third album at all. Well, the world is different now, 15 years later. The whole publishing industry has changed, and creatives are now, we have a toolkit that we never had before. We can actually make the books ourselves. And in fact, musicians learned this long before writers did, that they started releasing their own CDs without big record labels. And I got the rights back to the books, and we got the rights back to the CDs. And I thought, let's run a Kickstarter and let's just reissue this thing the way I always wanted it to do. And another friend of mine, Bob Madsen, who also has his own record label, and he knows lots of musicians, he kept bugging me saying, Kevin, why don't you ever do the third album? So I said, all right, let's do the third album. I got the rights back. We ran a Kickstarter, and like I've been showing, we have these are, look at their hardcovers. They're beautiful new things. They've got new cover art. We have new illustrations. I hired a Ukrainian artist who's worked on one of my other projects, and he did these new maps for us. He did new illustrations, and we put together the third CD, and we brought Michael back. He's the only person on all three CDs, and he sings the character of Kristan Vora, who's one of our main guys. And I'll just show off two more little things. So we wrote a companion book. It's got a new story. It's called Mythical Creatures, and it also has all of the lyrics for all of the CDs. But and I hope you're not listening to this on just audio, because you're not seeing all these cool. Here's the three CDs. Here's the brand new CD that's on there. But just because I always wanted this to be like this, my masterpiece. I wanted this to be beautiful stuff. So we created this beautiful leather bound box set in a slip case, and it's got, look at these pretty sprayed edges on it, and it's just they're gorgeous covers and embossed, and it's got end papers. And this is the kind of stuff that writers just get off on. This is the coolest thing ever. And we ran a Kickstarter, which was very successful. All of those got produced, and we still have some copies left. So we'll hope some of your listeners might want to go and listen to the music or pick up some of the books and all that. So the voice to a bunch of my songs is Michael Sadler, and I want to turn it over to him because he's rolling his eyes bored at me talking on and on.
That's not true.
Nice. Yeah, but yeah, Michael, I'd love to hear your story of how you got involved in
Well,
this.
you mentioned Sean Gordon was the first connection. Had been working with him on my solo And I was approached to do the project at first, and I thought, I mean, like with any projects that I'm offered, it's always a matter of I'm very open. I'm quite willing to sing outside of my comfort zone, as it were, with Saga. In fact, I invited because I really enjoy doing that and expanding, you know, my range and that kind of thing. Um, and I always say, let me hear some material, and I'll, you know, be able to better, because I never want to accept a project if I think that either I can't do it justice or vice versa, or if I think it's just not a good fit. It's not worth it. It's going to be a waste of time, everybody's time and energy. So I heard the you know, some snippets of the kind of material it was, and I said, yeah, I'd love to be a part of it. When it was explained exactly what it was, and I thought, yeah, this is cool. And you know, we did the first one, it was great. We did the second one, and the strange thing was when it came time to do the second one, or the third one, I was not completely clear on the fact that this character that I was as important or as lead as Kevin was mentioning to the story and integral to the story. Um, uh, um, um, Sorry, I got uh, until it was either Kevin or Bob said, well, you know, this was in the early stages of deciding whether, you know, we were going to proceed with me on the third one, and we, you know, thought it was available and that kind of thing. And he said, well,
And I was
you
going,
know, that,
please, please, please.
yeah, it was like, well, you know, you realize that, you know, because you're like pretty much the lead character, if you can't do it, then we're not going to do it. I'm like, wait a minute, wait, what kind of pressure is
Okay, that
that?
wasn't me. I wasn't threatening you.
I thought, well, okay. First of all, your negotiating skills, you know, you make it sound like we can't do this without you. I'm going to up my price right there. But all kidding aside, it was a great honor to be first of all chosen to be the lead character, and of course I said yes, and we've got to complete the trilogy, but it worked out. The nice thing about it, because it was done. You know, with Henning Pauly did the second one, you know, and then Bob Madsen the third one. The difference in the recording and the technique and the sound from record to record, it shows a natural progression as the books would. As the story progresses, the sound is slightly different and the material is slightly different, and it made a logical. It was a logical progression, and it just felt really good. And the choice of songs and that, so.
Well,
Gave me a chance to work with people that I'm not, you know, normally associated with or working with. But
and I especially want, because so the character, the story spans like many years. And in the first book and the first album, the young captain, the Michael, is, I mean, he's just wide-eyed. He's going off to sea. He wants to explore new lands and see all these things.
like
And
I was with the first album singing
yeah, well, and
it.
Michael was only 20 years old at the time. And but I
Hence the
mean, it's,
gray beard.
well, but he's like optimistic. He wants to see everything, but then of course tragedies happen, and it separates him from the woman he loves, um and they basically can never. They're separated by a whole world, and they can't get back together. And his life, it's a tragic story that he goes through these terrible things. And in this third album, and especially the very first track, it's Uncharted Shores, that he's finally going back to the sea for one last voyage. He's going to see one last thing, because he's going to try to find this sense of wonder again, try to find this hope and the wonder in the world, after he's been through these embittering things and tragedies and stuff. And just that first track, Michael, Uncharted Shores, it's just that nails it with a sledgehammer. I mean, this is
Thank
just
you.
perfect, just perfect, the way that he's coming back to the thing that he loved so much. And that's the thing. He's not wide-eyed now. He's been through the ringer, and he's now going to come back. But I actually want to talk about, there's one song, it's probably my favorite song on all three albums, that so this is fantasy, so there's a little bit of magic that's in it. And when he goes off to sea at the very beginning, that his love of his life, she gives him a lock of her hair that he takes with her. You know, it's kind of the thing that soldiers did when they went off and stuff. So he's got a lock of her hair. But the magic in this world that they're connected. So with this strand of hair, he writes letters to her and he puts them in a bottle and he puts one strand of her hair in the bottle, corks the bottle and throws it overboard. And because there's magic, that actually will draw the letter back to her. And there's a song called "Letters in a Bottle" in fact, I keep telling you, Michael, that you missed your calling. You should have been Barry Manilow with your voice. He's got just this killer of a romantic voice, and it's just that song. I just love that song. It's got David Ragsdale on the violin in it, and it's just perfect stuff. So.
It's a beautiful, excuse me, a beautiful song, and I mean, it makes my job a lot easier if you want to call it a job. I mean, it's a pleasure what I do for a living. Um, when it's described, when it's made clear to me what the background to the story is, what the background to the lyric is, what's happening in the story at that point, more insight into the character that is singing that particular song or that particular message, it makes it a lot easier for me to to express that, obviously. So, and it's been that way all the way along, and like working with Bob on the latest one, we were very much back and forth with, this song is talking about that, give me a bit more of this kind of, a bit more angst or a bit more of that. So it really helps, and like I said, makes my performance that much easier to get a grip on. So.
And there isn't a single lyric that says "ooh baby baby." So
Not a one.
Well, and I know Michael, as a performer, I know you all throughout your career, there's been a lot of emotional lyrics and songs. But is it different when you're kind of performing like a literal role of a character in an epic story? Does that change the performance and how you approach it?
I think it doesn't. I mean, my performance is always what it is. I mean, um, I always give every performance 1,000%, obviously, but it probably gives it a bit more of an intensity if I know that it's uh, a specific character attached to a specific story. Yeah, I mean, your area of focus is much more intense, and you know, I mean, I'm always fairly intense and with delivery and performances. But yeah, if it's a specific story, a specific character, it does help to put the intensity more up front.
Sure.
that's kind of what the whole idea of this project was, that it's not just random songs and it's
Right.
not just a book, that this is like the soundtrack to the books, that there is a storyline through the album, and James LaBrie sings a specific character, Steve Walsh sings a specific character, Lana Lane is a specific character, and each song. So I don't know if I made it clear or not, but my wife and I wrote all the lyrics to all of these songs, so that here's a snapshot of this chapter or this scene, and here's a snapshot of this character and the crisis he's going through. And so if you've read the books, and then you can listen to the songs and go, oh, that's that song, or oh, that's that song. And I love how it meshes together. And Jack, we talked the last time I was on the show about how Neil Peart and I did the novel for Clockwork Angels, the last Rush album, which was a
Right.
concept album, and they were doing the songs, and Neil had this overarching story that he came up with. But the album, it's just songs. They're like it's a snapshot of the overall story. And he asked me to write the novel that connected all of that. And we did this sort of backwards. I wrote the story first, and then we figured out, well, that could be a song, or that could be a song. And there's some real great stuff in here. And I, I just have to say, these books will break your heart. I mean, there's so much. This is not a good sell job saying there's so much tragedy. You're going to feel miserable reading all these books, but it's also, um, I mean, it's such a compelling drama that it really talks about we should be more tolerant instead of vengeful all the time. And Neil Peart's greatest thing was that the measure of a life is a measure of love and respect. And that's how I think we should treat each other. And sadly, I don't see that as much as we should.
Yeah, well, I was going to comment on the real world parallels for sure. Luckily, we don't have religious fanatics in our real world. It's only in your story.
Yeah,
That's
right.
a poor
Yeah, this
joke,
was
but yeah.
written long before the October 7th event. I mean, that,
Mm.
look, that I was in New York at the time when that all hit, and I just went, how can anybody hate people so much? How does that? I don't hate anybody that much. I mean, I my sister annoyed me a lot, but I never hated anybody like that. I just can't figure out what's going on. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, again, yeah, no, I applaud, yeah, the huge, epic, sprawling story, and yeah, and then translating it to music is really, yeah. I was going to make a small joke that you did it the hard way in this one. With the other one, at least Neil Peart had kind of set it up. Now you did it the hard way. You actually wrote the huge trilogy
well, I was
first,
going to
and
write the books anyway.
yeah, no, I understand. Well, I mean, let me ask you also, Kevin, about the way this has progressed. I think Michael, you said it earlier that the production between the three albums has really, each one has its own feel, and they're all so
Hmm.
different. Kevin, I guess I kind of wanted to ask, was that a happy accident over as these things were created, or was that kind of by design from the beginning?
Do you mean the production value? I don't know what you're asking. Say it again.
Well, I think yeah, the production and the kind of the songwriting, the tone of each. There's some different differences. If you listen to each album, it's its own unique
Right.
experience. So was that
Well,
by design, or how did that come to be?
well, that was the hard part that the musician people had to do. I just wrote the lyrics, and I mean, again, I really know how to write books, but I don't play any instruments. I just am in awe with people that know how to do that stuff. And so I luckily teamed up with three different great songwriting teams. Eric Norlander in the first one, and Henning Pauly in the second one, and now Bob Madsen. Well, it's Bob, and he also has Jerry Merrill and Billy Connolly. They all work together on it. So that's the different sound. It's three different people, and I guess I'd say the first one with Eric Norlander. This it's Beyond the Horizon. Uh, it kind of has a real classic prog to it, sort of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Kansas feel to it, which is, that's what I came from. Henning Pauly is much more modern, kind of more like classic Dream Theater feel to it, a little bit of Tool maybe. And this third one, I don't quite know how to describe it. This is Bob Madsen in his own writing. It's still good, solid rock,
Mm.
and it's got his own little flavor on it. And um,
I think it's sorry, but for me, the third one is a little edgier
Yeah.
of the three. It's the edgiest of the three, as far as I can tell. So that's my impression of it.
Oh, and so this was the fun part for
Mm.
me because I'm like rock fanboy, and like Sean Gordon at first it was like, well, Kevin, well, who do you want on it? And I'm like, well, everybody, and I mean, picking James LaBrie and Steve Walsh and Michael and like this is like going to a nerd in high school saying, so which cheerleader do you want to date? And 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 for the third this new one. Our female vocalist is Annika von Giersbergen, who's this great Northern European female vocalist. I'm a huge fan of Within Temptation and some early Nightwish stuff. And Annika sang the most beautiful duet in the entire history of music. She sang with Sharon Den Adel on the Within Temptation Black Symphony album. It's called Somewhere, and I that's a concert that I've just watched 1,000 times, and I just like I fall in love with it every single time. And Annika, she's like struts out on stage and does the second part of the duet with Sharon Denadel, and my heart explodes. I'm just like this is the most beautiful thing ever. And we tried to get Sharon and we couldn't get Sharon, and I said, well, the other part of this duet is just great. Let's get Annika. And Bob Madsen managed to get Annika von Giersbergen, and her vocals are great. And then the other thing is Dan Reed from the Dan Reed Network plays our villain. He's Prester Hannes, and there's some truly evil. Again, this is the close-minded religious hatred guy. He's our Prester that just can't stand anybody from the opposite religion, and I thought, because I knew Dan and I worked with him on another project with Bob Madsen, in fact, because it's all interconnected. And Dan, we thought, well, Dan could sing Prester Hannes because he's kind of got this edgy voice, and he sings this evil guy, but Dan Reed is like the kindest, most he studied in a Buddhist monastery, and he's like the mild-mannered, sweet, kind guy, and we got him to sing the totally evil person. So that shows what a good musician he is, a singer, if he can pull that off. So we are now getting our special guest Bob Madsen, who's finally getting on to join us. Bob Madsen's the guy that made the third album come to fruition, and I think Bob needs to turn his microphone on and his camera, but he's gonna join
Yeah.
us any minute now.
Yeah, Bob Madsen's in the room. Yeah, I was going to geek out, by the way, Kevin. I was going to geek out about Annika van Giersbergen, who's is one of the most amazing singers. She has a song called Zo Lief, which is one of the most beautiful songs. It's an ode to her son. It's one of the most beautiful songs ever recorded. And of course, Greg Bissonette as a Joe Satriani fan. It just you got, yeah, what an incredible roster of stars you got throughout all three of these records. So
Well,
it's
that's
just
all Bob Madsen's fault. He's the person that we can credit for this. So
Or blame.
Sure, blame me. Sure.
blame you for all the great
Blame
stuff.
me
That's
for
what
all
I'm
of
talking
this, all of
about.
this headache. Hi guys.
welcome.
Morning.
I caught a bit of Kevin talking about Dan being the bad guy going to the dark side on this album, which I thought was really, really funny and ironic, incredibly ironic based on the type of person that he is. If you know Dan, you know that he is literally one of the sweetest men on the planet. But I will say he does have a dark side to his humor. Okay, so maybe he touched on that and sort of got the role correct. But he came through sounding absolutely sinister. I think it might go back to some of his acting days because he has done some off Broadway production stuff, kind of over in Portland area. And maybe he just got into the role, but it just was sinister. It was fun. It was fun seeing him do something completely different.
Well, why don't you tell everybody how you twisted my arm and made me do this project I never ever wanted to do? Well, I had given up on doing it just when we're not going to do the third album at all. So
Yeah, that's a story that needs to be told, actually. So yeah, your timing is
it
impeccable.
is your
Yeah.
fault. I would never have done it without you.
Hi, I'm Vern C. Bell here with Slam with Jack Mangan and Dave Ellefson.
Hey everybody, David Olson here, and you should support Slam.
You're never going to forgive me for it, are you?
Well, we've made $12 on it so far, so I don't know. It's
Okay, all right. That's more than my take-home pay. That's good. So, a few years ago, I decided to ride a motorcycle out from Northern California, out to go visit Kevin because we had done some work coincidentally on some of Dan's stuff that he was working on in Prague. We had partnered up with Dan and we're helping him support him in one of his projects. And but Kevin and I had never met, and at this point, we had already worked on a couple of renditions of a movie script. Basically me facilitating. I didn't have any of the creative part of that, but I facilitated it. And then Kevin and I worked on a script for a video for another one of my bands. And so we had this sort of nice friendship that was developing. And I thought, I need a destination for my yearly motorcycle ride. Why not go out and pastor Kevin? And so I did. And it was a great ride. I hadn't been through that part of the country. And I tell you, coming up through southern Utah was just gorgeous, all the canyons and everything.
Yeah.
And so I ended up heading out to Colorado Springs. And this was sort of late summer, early fall time. So it was beautiful weather. And Kevin says, okay, you go to the hotel. I'll pick you up the next day, and we'll go up to the Garden of the Gods, which is a really unique natural rock formation that's just outside of Colorado Springs, and it's very popular with hikers and tourists and things like that. What he failed to mention was the fact that it was 5,000 feet above sea level, and
That's
I live at about
7,000.
1,000 feet.
Yeah,
What's it?
7,000 or so, but who's counting? You were
7,000.
counting. Yes.
Okay, now you're adding insult to injury. Okay. Um, at that point, this little Bay Area guy who's never really gone beyond maybe 2,000 feet above sea level is being asked to hike at 7,000 feet. And the people at Garden of the Gods are so inconsiderate. They did not leave oxygen bottles. They did not leave respiratory equipment or anything out for us. I mean, it was really bad. So we're walking around, and Kevin and I are having a good time talking. He's telling me I'm learning a whole bunch about the publishing business, the book publishing business, and where he got his start and this, that, and I'm like, yeah, sure, Kevin, okay. And he's bouncing around the rocks like an overcaffeinated mountain goat. Okay, it doesn't affect him at all. So at some point, he took pity on me, and we took a break. And we said, okay. I said, that trilogy that you did back in the early aughts? He's like, yeah. And why didn't you ever finish the rock opera? Oh, yeah, bitch, moan, gripe, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And I said, it could be a good project. You should really think about it. Nah, it didn't go over the way I wanted it to. The publisher didn't know what to do with it, and yada yada yada.
Michael Sadler was so difficult to work with. We didn't ever want to get him
thank you.
again.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was one thing that held true. Well, I'm just kidding. But no, seriously.
Is that the time? Oh man, I'd love to hang. Sorry.
Bottom line is, he said no. He poo-pooed the idea. There's no way he was going to do it. So no problem. The next night, my wife flew into to Denver, and I met her there. And Kevin and Rebecca joined us for a Brazilian steakhouse dinner, or as Kevin calls it, the waterfall of meat. Okay. Which is, this carnivore loved it. And we had a really nice time. We, talked and joked and laughed for hours. And then they went home. My wife stayed around for a couple of days. And then I took off on the way back just ahead of a storm. And so literally I was riding across Montana and no, was that Wyoming there? Wyoming and I'm getting my geography all mixed up.
Wyoming
and Utah, and
Utah.
Nevada.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well,
no, I went
Utah
50.
and Nevada.
I went 50. So I went up
Okay.
through another one as well. Anyway, I rode at a 45-degree angle against the wind. So I was literally going down the road leaning at a 45-degree angle, trying to find semis to go around where they could block the wind for me. And they were really cool. The number of the semis would actually ride the shoulder so that they would give me more room and actually let me rest, while I was riding home. But I made it home in one piece. The only damage to the bike was a pucker in the front in the seat that didn't go down for a couple of days.
Caused by what, Bob? Caused by what?
We'll leave that to your imagination, okay? And I guess it was about a week later, and I just never thought anything more of the project. I was going to go on and do, a couple other things I had on my desk. And then a couple days later, Kevin calls. And he's really excited. He's, I got it back. I got them all back. I'm like, I thought you had shots for that. Anyway, he said, I got the books back. The publisher relented and gave me them back. Let's do this thing. And I'm like, oh crap, what have I bit off? Okay, so then Kevin and I started, talking about this and that. And the very first thing we both immediately said we needed Michael back. We needed Michael to complete the story. We needed Michael to provide the continuity that would be much needed on a project like this. And voila, Mr. Sadler
no
joined the
pressure.
ranks.
Yeah, no pressure on me whatsoever. I was
None,
talking about that
no.
earlier. It's like, okay, well, we'd really like you on this. Actually, if you don't do it, we're not going to do it. And I thought, okay, okay.
And what year was this when you actually did this recording on the third album at least? What year was that?
It was 2024. I mean, it was our end of 2024.
Mhm.
I think we actually started. Well, Michael, when did we contact you? Was it 23 or 24?
I believe it was 24.
Okay, 24.
Unless
Okay,
it was
for
late
record's sake.
23, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll say 24.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, once Michael signed on, then of course we had the gravitas at that point to be able to attract other players. And that helped a lot too. Just lending Michael's name to the project. And the fact that it's got Sadler on this. That might be something worth looking into. Was enough for us to be able to get some of the other guys. Now, Dan, he owed me favors basically, and so I arm twisted him to get him to play the bad guy. But the other stuff, Ted and
Leonard.
Annika were
Leonard.
and Leonard. Well, Leonard also owed me some favors. So
Right.
I got him.
I just meant we
based on that.
haven't mentioned Ted yet. So Ted Leonard is one of the vocalists from Spock's Beard and Pattern Seeking Animals. So he's
Yes,
on a track.
and I've known him for over 30 years, going back to his debut band, which was Enchant. So I've been working tangentially with Enchant for decades, and so I knew I wanted him on there because of he's got this wonderful soaring voice. Also, Ted plays Michael's son in the book, and I thought there was a certain similarity of tone between Ted's voice and Michael's, and so that it made sense for that to be the son. It wouldn't work to have like Rod Stewart be his son. It's the wrong.
That was our
wrong
second
tone.
choice, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
And then, so we got actually Ted was the last one to sign on, believe it or not. Annika heard what was going on, listened to a couple of the first ones, and then said, "Yeah, I'll do this. This sounds kind of interesting." So then, we had all these people lined up, and then I think right afterwards, we should mention the fiddle player,
Yes. So
the fiddler.
we had David Ragsdale on the first one, and there are no strings on the second album, but the third, this is a big nautical sailing ships. It's got to have strings. It's got to have big epic strings. And I knew Jonathan Dinklage from the Rush Clockwork Angels string section, but also he plays every year at the Bubba Bash, the Neil Peart tribute concert that happens. And I knew him, but this guy's a big deal. I mean, he's Barbara Streisand's violinist. He's Lady Gaga's violinist. He played Hamilton on Broadway. But he's a friend of mine, and Bob was gonna get like a studio musician to do it. And I said, well, let's ask Jonathan Dinklage. We weren't really sure we could get him, but I called and left a message saying, kind of explain what the project was, and I said, we would love to have strings on it. I'd love to have you take part if you can. And this whole trilogy is dedicated to Neil Peart, who was like my creative spirit animal, and I mean he's was so close to me, which we've talked about before. And so I left a message for Jonathan. I said, what would it take? How can we get you to be involved in this? And he called me back on a Saturday night, and he said, I can only talk a few minutes because I'm between sets. We're on break. I'm on stage. I think it was Lady Gaga. He's like, I'm calling you back, but whatever it takes, I'm going to be on this album. I really want to play this. I want to do it for you. I want to do it for Neil. We're going to do this. And so I went, that's a pretty decent answer. And then we turned him over to Bob and take it from there.
That what's really funny. We're gonna paint. Poor John's gonna be painted as such a fanboy right now. What he told me was that when he heard about the offer, pretty much almost crapped his pants. Okay. And the whole reason, there was multiple reasons for him to get involved. Not me, he didn't know who the hell I was, but everybody else. And when he heard Michael Sadler was on this, he ruined his underwear. And at that point, when he called me, he said, look, one of the reasons I got into prog music was my big brother, who is Peter Dinklage, the actor from Game of Thrones, brought home a Saga album around 81, 82. And we just would sit there and listen to this over and over again. He is literally one of my favorite singers, favorite songwriters, favorite rock stars. I'm completely over the moon. And he said, and he started quoting me Saga songs off of all these different albums. Now, I have to admit, I'm a big Saga fan as well. I have all the albums. And these were ones that I had completely forgotten. Okay. And he made me go back and listen to them again. And so as soon as he heard Michael was on there, he's like, yeah, somehow, I don't care how it works out, I'm gonna be on this. Now, I had never worked with John before. And so when we actually started working together, I found him to be absolutely delightful. He was so much fun to work with. He has this wry sense of humor. I think it runs in the family. There's this wry, sarcastic sense of humor that is just a blast. And he did such a good job that we originally had him scheduled for, I think it was like, we budgeted for 3 or 4 guest spots with him. He ended up being on 9 out of 10 songs. We just kept using him over and over and over again.
He said, I could do this all day.
Bring it on.
I could do this all day, is what he said.
Oh, yeah. He actually, one of the songs that's kind of a special deal, it's one of my other bands, Grafenberg Disciples, and we licensed one of the songs to this project because it fits so well. It was a song called Not in My Name. And there is a solo in there where people think it's Eddie Van Halen style electric guitar. It's not. It's violin, and he is going off. And he called me after delivering the tracks because he's on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. So he emailed me the tracks, and he said, "Oh my God, that was so much fun. I could do this all day." That was the quote. And I was like, "Okay, Captain America."
And in fact, this is going to be, you guys won't be hearing this until after it's passed, but this coming weekend for us, me and Bob and Michael and Jonathan Dinklage are all going to be at Progstock in New Jersey. So we're all going to be hanging out, and
and
Ted too.
And Ted too.
And Ted Leonard. So so sorry you missed it, but that's where we'll be. We have a whole big table set up with all of the Terra Incognita stuff, and also so this other book, the Mythical Creatures book, which is the companion. It's got the lyrics, and I wrote this big essay about how the whole project came about, and then Bob wrote his own essay for it. And this is your first publication, right? Your first.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I gave copies to my family, and I signed them. Look, Ma, I'm a published author.
So I'll plug before we forget. I've got all of this stuff. It's my own web store. It's wordfireshop.com, like words on fire, wordfireshop.com. So you can get the fancy leather bound, and they're signed and numbered and limited to no more than
gorgeous
500 copies. They're it's $300 for the whole set, and the CDs are there, the regular books are there, the companion books there. So take pity on struggling musicians and get some copies on it. But
I got to tell you, I've got a copy of the set. It is stunning. It's a gorgeous. You did a great job putting the thing together, Kevin. I mean, it's one of the nicest. Even just on a visual level, the illustrations, the hardcover, the insets. I don't know what you call them, the inside panels and stuff. I'm just a dumb bass player. It's stunning. It really is stunning. And the CD turned out really well, in my opinion. One of the best things that I've done, and I had a blast doing it. But I am curious to hear Michael's take on this process.
in terms of, I mean, it was great. I was talking earlier about of all three of them, you were most hands-on with me in terms of my performance and the characters and what we were trying to get out of each character. You gave me more insight into the character this time around, and the nature of what was happening in the story at that point, which was very, very helpful. We were talking about performance, you know, what makes a better performance than others. And it really is that knowing more, you know, having more insight and background into the nature of the character, what he's singing at that point, what's going on in his life at that point, and that really helped. So kudos to you for helping me through that.
Thank you. Much respect. It was an absolute joy working with you. I get these tracks and it would be just like, I put them on the big speakers, okay, crank it up, put you in place, crank it up, and it'd be like, that's it. That's what we wanted. That's what we needed on this.
I remember there was one, I think it was the ballad, and you said, well, unless you want to do it again, I think we've got it. And I was just, for me, it was just a quick run through. It's like, how about this? You know, how about exactly like that? You know?
Yeah, how about exactly like that? It was wonderful because
That's good.
You really captured the longing, the heartache, a little bit of the jadedness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was the performance of a man who has seen too much.
Well, again, the giving me the background and explaining fully the way you saw it and the way you saw what was going on with the character, it really helped to get that out of me. So.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. And yeah, it was the tracks came in sounding fantastic. I got to ask you about your signal chain at some point, what you were using, because they really sounded good. We'll geek out at Prog Saga.
You'll be surprised. You'll be very surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
So I gotta jump. So just looking at time, I gotta get three more.
Jack, do you have any questions? We've just been
we just hijacked your podcast.
No, any good interviewer knows when to stay out of the way. I'm not going to jump in and say, well, let's talk about what I want to talk about. You guys talk about me now. Like, no. I'm I know when to be a fly on the wall. These are good stories. I'm not going to get in the way. But I'm going to start with a comment. Actually, I'm going to say that these are really good albums in their own right too. I mean, I think people need to recognize that. It's not like, I've never read the books, I'm not going to. No, this is good music. It's good. Of course, it's Prog. I mean, I think Spock's Beard is one of the first things I think of, but definitely just some Dream Theater, and of course some Saga, of course. I mean, how could it not sound like Saga? But yeah, I think it's great music. And as Bobby, I don't think you're on yet, but we talked about how each one has its own different kind of feel and flair and mood and production and everything. So it's three unique experiences. So that's not a question, but I definitely want to my hat is off to you guys. Actually, so here's the question now. And I guess this is for all three, but mostly Kevin. So, I mean, Kevin, you're not one to rest on your laurels. What is next with Terra Incognita specifically? What is next? Is there going to be a comic? Is there going to be, part 4? I mean, or is there going to be like a
Broadway?
I've lost it.
Broadway, definitely Broadway. Broadway. Yeah.
Well, I'm shooting for the Ice Follies presentation, the Terra Incognita ice. Yeah, so there is a scene down by the southern ice caps where those ships are going through the ice. So we need to have now. No, this is one of those this is a trilogy. Book 1, 2, and 3, and the story's done. And I did a companion story for the Mythical Creatures book. There are the three albums, and this project has just. Well, it's exhausting and exhilarating. I mean, this took everything out of me, but it's done, and it could not have been better. When you finish something and you go, "Yep, that nailed it. That's exactly what I wanted." Now let's do something else that couldn't possibly be as good. I mean, you don't want to do a sequel to the perfect thing, and this is what it is. However, my science fiction masterpiece, the thing that I've worked for forever and ever on, is called The Saga of Seven Suns. It's a 7-volume, it's like The Expanse or Star Wars. It's this huge thing. Very similar situation where the books came out, they did really well, but that was 15 years ago, and they were kind of trickling and out of print, and the publisher put like different covers on the last two, and there were things that I wanted to do better. And I also, after 3 years of legal wrangling, which is like another whole episode of your podcast about why do publishers just not give the rights back when they're not doing anything with them? And I got the rights back to the Saga of Seven Sons. And so that's my big, huge thing now is next year's Kickstarter will be to reissue those books. And I've already had the original cover artist do 2 brand new covers for the last 2 books, and I'll be releasing that. Bob has been twisting my arm to do a Seven Sons album, and I've been saying no, which is exactly like I did for Terra Incognita. But
Pete, have
Well,
we
it's
heard
coming.
this story before?
I look forward to hearing it.
Deja vu.
We'll see. We'll
Deja
see
vu.
on that one. It's just one of those. There's only 40 hours in a day, you know, and what
Yeah.
what can you do? So, anyway, I just want to nail it. I can't express how pleased I am with how the Terra Incognita project now is. It's finally done exactly the way it was supposed to be. You know how George Lucas kept dinking around with Star Wars when he should have just left it alone? Well, I don't want to keep dinking around with this. This is these leather bound book. This is the way it's supposed to be. And I don't need to mess with it. I'm happy with it.
All right.
Should be.
Well, actually, all right. So then, so Bob and Michael, actually, I'll ask the same. Other than coming back on this podcast in the near future, or in the future, other than that, no pressure again on you guys. But no, well, tell us what else. Promote anything you have coming up in the end of 2025, early 2026. Go ahead and promote anything you'd like to.
The immediate plans for me right now is I'm actually in New Jersey. I'm going to see these other 2 guys in a few days. But we put together a new band called Serengazer that we're premiering at Progstock. It's my son and myself, Jimmy Keegan, Paul Bielatovich, and Matt Dorsey. And it's a set of completely original material being premiered this weekend. It could be a one-off, or it could be a future endeavor. We'll see how it's received. But that's what we're. In fact, we're having a very first rehearsal today. We haven't rehearsed any of this material. We've kind of done the online thing and gone through the tracks and put the songs together. But we're physically rehearsing today and tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll be ready for Sunday night. That's the immediate plan right now for me. As far as Saga is concerned, we did a major tour last fall, and then we did Cruise to the Edge in the spring. But the after my cancer scare and consequent treatment and operation last year, the tour was pretty grueling, and I said to the guys, I'm not, I can't be doing that anytime soon. I need to think about my health and the family and that. So in terms of the heavy touring and that with Saga, we're just kind of laying back for the moment, some casual writing and that for the future. But touring plans are kind of on hold at the moment, and just doing the Serengazer thing. And I'll see what the rest of the year has in store. But it's really just, nurturing my son, who's a budding guitar player and becoming a songwriter on his own. And we got a little some stuff on YouTube that we're doing together, rediscovering. Well, he's discovering and I'm rediscovering all the Saga catalog, the complete catalog, one song at a time. We're doing like reaction videos, the father-son thing, which is kind of cool. So
yeah, those are great. Yeah, Derek. By the way, Derek Ma jumped in and wanted to applaud those too. So yeah,
thank
great
you.
stuff.
We're getting a great reaction to it, and it's a really cool format. And the fact that I get a chance to do this with Saren is wonderful. And it's like I say, it's been really, really well received, and it's fun to do. And I get to hear some stuff like I completely forgot about, which is really cool. So, and he seems to genuinely like it, which is a bonus, But that's it for now. Right now, it's just doing that with my son, and we'll see what future projects, like maybe this the new Kevin J. Anderson project will kind of
shoot. Now he's pressuring too.
Well, you put the word Saga in there. What am I supposed to say?
Well, okay, Saga of Seven Sons. You're right.
I know.
You open the door, dude. Okay.
No one could stop us now. All right, sorry.
Yeah, really. Oh.
because we're on the loose.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
If I may, number
Please.
one, Michael, we are going to hold you to that. If it happens, we are going to hold you to that.
You got it.
You open the door, buddy.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. Let's see. What's next for this old fart? Well, whenever Kevin calls, if he calls, then I'll probably, I certainly will answer the phone, and we'll see if we can figure out something for the biggest challenge that I can see on the Saga of the Seven Sons is this 12 books. That's a lot of material. So I got to start reading. I know. I got to start reading now. Jeez. I'll probably finish it on the plane over there. It's not a problem. But no, seriously, for me, it'll be probably looking at, I have two other bands that I produce and write for. And they're the Grafenberg Disciples, and another band that I do with Dan. Actually, there's three. Jeez, I'm getting senile. There's three. Operation Paperclip, which is a project with Dan Reed, and then a new one that the working title for the band is The Nothing Box, but we haven't quite figured out if that's going to be the final name or not. And we started writing sessions this last weekend, and I'm really enthusiastic about that because I'm going full on, for me, full on prog, which is something new. That's something I actually wanted to really express my gratitude. Is you say that all three of these albums were really nice, and thank you very much for that statement. But the thing that was so helpful about this is by far the biggest project I've been involved in. And when, Eric Norlander set such a high bar right out of the gate. Okay. It is, I bought these albums long before I was involved in this project. Matter of fact, I was signed to the same label, and I actually signed to the same label because of Rodwell 6 being on it, because Michael Sadler was on it, and because Tony Carey and Planet P were on that label. So I thought, hey, if these guys are there, then this is a good home for me, because I love all these projects. So anyway, then Henning came out and he gave his own spin. He did the second album. Henning Pauly did the second album, and he gave it his own spin, and it was different than Eric's, but it still harkened back to Eric's production, but it took it in a different direction. My direction, or my past, is in pop, rock, and a bit of funk. I do a little bit of a flippity-flappity bass stuff. And I remember calling Kevin and saying, hey, where do you want me to go with this? Do you want me to make it like the first album or the second album? I know we've got to provide continuity for the listeners, but at the same time, this is not really my wheelhouse. And much to Kevin's generosity, he goes, no, make this a Bob Madsen production. Make it your own. And I want to thank you, Kevin, for giving me that leeway to completely mess up your ideas.
Yes. Well, I said no rap. You were kept trying to put rap in there, and I said no rap. So
well, it was either that or polka.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the polka Sea Monster polka would have been great. I do
I
want
loved
to
it.
I want to throw in though that the reason that I even met Bob is after Neil Peart passed away, his group, the Grafenberg Disciples, did an astonishing tribute song to Neil called No Words. And just go on YouTube and look up Neil Peart, No Words, Grafenberg Disciples, No Words. That video, it still makes me cry. It's such an incredible tribute to Neil. And I just went, this guy is somebody I want to work with. And it is go listen to it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful song. And that's
thank you.
Just got me. So that's why we're here. And
so Neil actually started it all.
Yeah. Well, all this connection. I mean, the books were dedicated to him, and it all kind of goes back. And
right.
And I will be at the Bubba Bash this January. Oh, that's another thing. So we met Jonathan Dinklage because of the Neil Peart connection, but also one of the drummers on this album is Ed Toth from Vertical Horizon and the Doobie Brothers. And I know Ed from Bubba Bash, and I had given him some books, and we really got along very well. And asked him if he wanted to play some drums on a couple tracks, and he came out to Bob's studio while the Doobies were on tour, and he recorded, was it 2 tracks? I think 2 drums on 2 tracks.
Yes, 2 tracks. Yeah. What was interesting is there is amongst all the drummers there's 3 drummers on the album, and there's a definite Neil thread through all of them. Greg Bissonette, of course, was a very close friend of Neil's for a while. They put on the
Buddy
Burning
Rich.
for Buddy
Yeah.
tribute, which was a tribute to
Right.
Buddy Rich. But the band, the other drummer who did about half the album, but 5 songs on it, was a gentleman by the name of Jeff Tuttle. And I met him through him being the drummer for a Rush tribute band called Rash in the Sacramento area. He grew up, and matter of fact, he's pretty much self-taught, and he taught himself how to play drums by listening to Neil. And so I figured if this guy can play Neil, he can play anything. And that's exactly what it was. So there's a very strong Neil thread throughout all of this.
Support life and music.
Yeah. You guys will have to get Annika Neelis for the next project. We'll have to get her to be the drummer on the next project.
That's we're recording this on the day after that big announcement of
Yeah.
Rush coming back, and I'm going up to Toronto to see one of the shows there, and they're having a Rush Con at the same time, so I'll be there. So anyway, we'll be wrapping this up again. I'll plug you if you guys were interested in this. You can get the books and the CDs. It's wordfireshop.com. I've got them all there, and that's my store. I'll sign them all and put them in there for you.
Yeah, so absolutely. I just strongly encourage everyone. Yeah, again, a fan of Kevin's writing for decades. And but do you guys have time let me ask my 2 stock questions. You guys have time, or you guys got a couple more minutes?
We got time.
Couple more.
All right. So, all right. Well, the first question is the first stock question actually is actually one you've not faced before, Kevin. So, and actually you have 3 different perspectives. So I definitely want to hear. So, I mean, we're all old enough. Some of us go back to 8 tracks, but we go back to records, tapes, CDs, MP3s, all of it. So, but streaming is what's ruling the day. So how has that affected your life, that now that streaming is the dominant method of people consuming music? Maybe Michael, we'll start with you. Like, how has this changed your life as a musician?
It's just an adjustment. It's just like you say, we all go back like further. Some go back further than others, but 8-track cassette, the birth of everything, the CD, and on. Now streaming. Each time you just have to make the adjustment. You can sit and moan and go, oh no, and now it's good, everything's changed. What am I going to do? Well, you just adjust to it. You just figure, well, this is the way it is now, and you just use it to your advantage, and you just play the new game. You can't complain about it. You can't stop technology. You can't stop progress. So if that's the way it's going to be, you just look at it and go, okay, how can I use this to best suit, my needs, and how I can get my music to the audience the fastest way. And like I say, just to embrace it and think it's not going back to the way it was. So, this is now. Just use it and enjoy it.
Yeah,
I mean, there are flaws, and you can go on about, we're not properly compensated and that kind of thing, and there are some pirate things going on and things like that. That's going to happen. You can't do anything about that. Hopefully, that will change, and artists will get their due, compensation eventually. But that's what it is right now. And like I say, you just you work with it. Either that, or you just don't bother, writing new material and having it out there. You just write it for your friends and family. But if you're going to do it in a commercial way, then just learn how to use it properly.
All right. Perfect. Thanks. All right, Bob, we'll turn to you. Do you have how has it affected your career and your life?
I do this just for the hell of it. Okay. I'm going to be a songwriter for the rest of my days. I'm going to write whatever. And I'm writing music that I enjoy. I don't necessarily write for a particular audience per se. But I completely agree with what Michael's saying. This is the situation. You have to learn to adapt. I also agree that the artists are not being compensated. There's been, because of loopholes within the classification of streaming and downloads, companies like the big 3 have taken advantage of it, and they're making a lot of money off of what we're doing. I had a conversation with the manager of a very, very large publishing portfolio last year, and he said the record business is broken. We don't know what we're doing. We used to be really good at selling these little silver discs. We know how to do that. We were really good at that. Now that those silver discs are gone and anybody can get anything anywhere and it's out of our hands, we don't know what we're doing. Nobody's come up with a new solution. Unfortunately, I think it will take legislation because it's not going to come from the industry, or the industry is going to change to such a degree that it's going to go back to the way it was in the 50s and 60s, where it's just going to be, you're going to need to tour like crazy, you're going to need to play in front of people like crazy, and you build your following, one fan at a time. And once you build that following, you may be able to make a nice, living for yourself, but it's going to mean putting in the work.
Well, and I'll throw in an actual upbeat and optimistic thing. Well, I mean, yes, I truly believe that they need to fix it so that the artists get compensated for it. It's like, I mean, I'm from publishing, so there's now ebooks everywhere, but I actually get paid when somebody buys an ebook. And when somebody listens to these songs on streaming, it's such a vanishingly small amount, you might as well not get paid.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. When talking about us being old in the old way that we had to get stuff, I lived in a small town and I could like go to the record store maybe once a month and we went to the mall. And I remember like when I got into Kansas and I would go to the K section and I'd flip through and they didn't have everything. Like if I saw it was an old Kansas album, but if I found it was new to me, like I better buy this right now because I might never see it again. And and when I bought an album, this was like a calculated choice. It's like, okay, I'm only going to get one album this month, so I got to figure out which one is it going to be, and it's like a real investment if I buy Eagles Hotel California or Fleetwood Mac Rumors. Like, which one do I buy? And if somebody just had a new band, and I had a friend that said, "Hey, have you listened to Rainbow or something?" I would never go to the record store and plop down my $8 and buy that album because, you wouldn't do that. The thing with streaming now, though, is if people listening to this podcast right now, they're going to go, hey, I haven't thought of Saga in quite a while. I'm just going to go right now and play a Saga catalog. It is, you
Sure.
can now go and listen to anything you want to. If a friend of mine recommends some obscure prog band, like Bob, you said, oh, it's Ted Leonard and it's Pattern Seeking Animals. Well, I never heard of Pattern Seeking Animals. So just plug it in. Okay, and I start playing them. Right now, all artists,
And they're good, aren't they?
yeah, and because of streaming, all artists are available to all listeners.
True.
So just somebody suggests it, you can instantly listen to it. Where when we were young, it was an effort to get somebody's album. Well, and if it back when I was in high school, if Bob, if you had suggested Pattern Seeking Animals, I guarantee you it wouldn't have been in my music land when I went there to flip through. I probably never would have listened to them because I never would have found that album.
Well, actually, I don't think Ted was born yet.
Yeah, well, we're imaginary here, but that's the upbeat part of this with streaming is that all artists are available to all listeners. It just would be nice if those artists got paid when the listeners.
Yeah, convenience did not equate to commerce.
Yeah,
Right. I appreciate you saying that, because that's actually been my exact viewpoint. I remember, I'll tell a specific story, and then we'll get on with the rest of our lives. But I remember in the '90s, someone saying, "Hey, you ever heard of Robin Trower?" Because they were like, "You would love this guy. You got to check him out." And I kind of went, "I hope I hear him someday," because just like you said, I'm not going to go and spend $15 to, "Hey, somebody recommended this. I'm going to drop $15." So yeah, if that conversation happened today, if I'd never heard Robin Trower and someone said, "You got to check him out, check out Bridge of Sighs," I'm like, "Okay, let me check it out." And so I'm definitely on board with all that. I definitely like. All right, I want to again thank you guys so much for your time. Thanks so much for the great conversation. It was it was a joy being a fly on the wall listening to you guys tell great stories, and I genuinely want to invite all three of you to come back anytime to promote anything you've got going on, and we'll talk more stuff about supporting life in music, about helping musicians. But again, it's an honor talking to all three of you guys. Best of luck with everything, and hopefully, I know there's cool stuff coming up. Prog Stock's already happened when this is released, but Bubba Bash and other things. So anyone wants to take the final word, and then we'll look at the door. But thank you guys all for coming on.
I just want to thank you, Jack, and you guys. I guess I'll see you. I know this is after the fact when this airs, but I'll see Kevin
soon.
and Bob on the weekend, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But thank you, Jack. It'll be a pleasure to come on again. Let me know when you want me, and I'll if I'm free, I'll be there.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks, Jack.
I'll go next, guys. It's going to be great to see you guys next weekend. First beer is on me.
Ooh.
Okay. And
He's
Jack,
gonna spill it on himself. So
That's what I was thinking too.
You can't take me out in public. It's just not a good idea. And Jack, thank you for the invite to be on here. It's a very, very nice thing. And yes, it's Michael and I actually haven't spoken for this long
That's
up
true.
to now. So this is kind of nice to get to know him a little bit more. And it's actually, now that he's seen me and now that he's heard me and all this kind of stuff, I'm pretty sure he's going to stay in his dressing room the entire Prog stock.
Well, I was going to say, I at this point, I'm revoking your backstage pass, but that's another matter.
Well,
all right, guys. Thanks again,
to,
man. I really appreciate the invite.
And to tie it together right back to the beginning, I think Bob's kind of a contender for this beard thing going on too. He's got a pretty awesome beard there. So it's not quite Michael's, but it's still a pretty awesome beard. So
yeah, but Michael still had the mustache that ate Manhattan.
Yeah, true.
Back from the original videos.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I've never seen an SM57 disappear into a mustache before.
Well, I first met Michael. He had hair on top of his head and no hair on his chin. So he was that was a different stage in his life. Anyway, guys, this was a great interview. Thank you for the exposure, Jack. And I can't wait for you guys to hear the music. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.